Let us begin by waving and greeting to our friends joining us via Zoom, and Zoomies waving to us roomies. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg. Here we gather in a spirit of freedom and friendship. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, whatever your gender identity, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on Monacan land. My name is Gary Duvall. I've been a member of UUCL for 53 years, and I'm a member of the Sunday Services Committee. If you're with us for the first time, we are glad that you chose to be here this morning to participate in the service for this church community that we love. We would be happy to tell you more about our community during virtual social time on Zoom or in person in Drysdale Hall following the service. If you would like to receive our monthly newsletter and Friday email updates, you can fill out one of the yellow cards in the pocket in the back of the seat in front of you and drop it in the offering basket. If you're on Zoom, please fill out the contact form found on the homepage of our website at uulynchburg.org. You may also wish to join our Facebook group. For those of you on Zoom, please note that the order of service is in the chat to the right of your screen if you're using a PC. If you're using a phone, the link is at the bottom of your screen. As we enter our time of worship, we light the flame of our chalice sharing these words. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to be back with you. In the turning of the year, these few days between the end of October and the beginning of November are uniquely sacred. Dia de los Muertos brings people out to visit with their loved ones who have died, bringing favorite foods and playing familiar music to nourish their souls. Pagans celebrate Samhain when the boundary between the living and the dead grows very thin, and those we have lost draw near. And today, all around the world, there are people lighting candles in sanctuaries for All Souls Day, with prayer and remembrances for those who have died and those who are grieving their absence. During these sacred days, death is not hidden from sight, and grief is not experienced alone. Unitarian Universalist minister Anna Russomano-Broski writes that during these days, we can take time to remember those who have gone before us, to name them and identify their presence in the things around us, in checkerboards and cedar chests, the curve of a cheekbone and the turn of a phrase, in spaghetti sauce and old sweaters. Whether grief feels sharp or distant for you today, you are welcome just as you are. It's good to be together. And let's sing now, rising in body or spirit. We're going to sing number 357 in the Gray Hymnal.
And young at heart to join me down front. We have a good story this morning. So, last month we were talking about compassion all month, and now we are in the month of November, and we are going to be talking about gratitude. And I have a really good book for this morning. It's called Badger's Parting Gifts. Badger was dependable, reliable, and always ready to help when help was needed. He was also very old, and he knew almost everything. Badger was so old that he knew soon he would be going away. Badger wasn't afraid of that. It meant only that he would leave his body behind. And as his body didn't work as well as it had in days gone by, Badger wasn't too concerned about that. His only worry was how his friends would feel when he wasn't there anymore. Hoping to prepare them, Badger had told them that someday soon he would be going down the long tunnel, and he hoped they wouldn't be too sad when it happened. One day, as Badger was watching Mole and Frog race down the hillside, he felt especially old and tired. He wished more than anything that he could run with them, but he knew his old legs wouldn't let him. He watched Mole and Frog for a long time, enjoying the sight of his friends having a good time. It was late when he arrived home. He wished the moon good night and closed the curtains on the cold world outside. He made his way slowly down to the warm fire that was waiting for him deep underground. He had his supper and then sat down at his desk to write a letter. When he had finished, he settled down in his rocking chair near the fire. He gently rocked himself to and fro and soon was fast asleep, having a strange yet wonderful dream. In his dream, Badger was running. Ahead of him was a very long tunnel. His legs felt strong and sure as he ran toward it. He no longer needed his walking stick, so he left it lying on the floor of the tunnel. Badger moved swiftly, running faster and faster through the long passageway until his paws no longer touched the earth. He felt himself turning end over end, tumbling and falling, but nothing hurt. He felt free. It was as if he had fallen out of his body. The following day, Badger's friends gathered outside Badger's door. They were worried because he hadn't come out to say good morning as he always did. Fox broke the sad news that Badger was gone and read Badger's note to them. It said simply, "Gone down the long tunnel. Goodbye, Badger." All the animals had loved Badger, and everyone was very sad. In bed that night, Mole could think only of Badger. Outside, it began to snow. Winter had begun, and soon a thick layer of snow hid the animals' homes, where they would stay snug and warm during the cold months. The snow covered the countryside, but it didn't conceal the sadness that Badger's friends felt. Badger had always been there when anyone needed him. The animals always all wondered what they would do now that he was gone. Badger had told them not to be unhappy for him, but it was hard not to be. As spring drew near, the animals often visited each other and talked about the happy days when Badger was alive. Mole was good at using scissors, and he told about the time Badger had taught him how to cut out a chain of moles from a piece of folded paper. Paper moles had littered the ground that day. Mole remembered the joy he had felt when he had finally succeeded in making a complete chain of moles with all the paws joined as one. See his little mole chain? Frog was an excellent skater. He recalled how Badger had helped him take his first slippery steps on the ice. Badger had gently guided him across the ice until he had gained enough confidence to glide out on his own. Fox remembered how when he was a young cub, he could never knot his tie properly until Badger showed him how. Starting with the wide end of the tie, it's right over left, once around to the back, up, then down through the crossover. Fox could now tie every knot ever invented, and some he had made up himself. And of course, his own necktie was always perfectly knotted. Badger had given Mrs. Rabbit his special recipe for gingerbread and had shown her how to make gingerbread rabbits. Mrs. Rabbit was well known throughout the countryside for her excellent cooking. As she talked about her first cooking lesson with Badger so long ago, she could almost smell the wonderful fragrance of gingerbread fresh from the oven. Each of the animals had a special memory of Badger, something he had taught them that they could now do extremely well. He had given them each something to treasure, a parting gift that would become all the more special each time they passed it on to others. As the last of the snow melted, so did the animals' sadness. Now, whenever Badger's name was mentioned, someone remembered another story that made them all smile. One warm spring day, as Mole was walking on the hillside where he had last seen Badger, he wanted to thank his friend for his parting gift. "Thank you, Badger," he said softly, believing that Badger would hear him. And somehow, he thinks Badger probably did. The end. So I really like this book because it talked about how our happy memories of the people and the animals that aren't with us anymore can live in our hearts forever. And that joy can always make us smile even when we're missing them. So this month we're going to be talking about gratitude, and upstairs today we're going to be talking about how we have gratitude for the people and the animals who aren't with us anymore, but who we have happy memories of. And one thing that we're going to be doing is making memory leaves, where we'll write down on our leaves a memory or the name of a person or an animal that we want to remember, and we can hang it on our tree in Drysdale Hall. And we're inviting all the adults to fill out a leaf too, because just how we have so many pumpkins in our compassion patch, we want our tree of remembrance to have lots of leaves on it. So there's leaves in Drysdale Hall for all the grown-ups, and we have leaves upstairs that we'll be working on today. And we have some other fun things to do today too, so that we can share memories with each other of those that we love. So we ready to head upstairs? All right, let's go.
You all always choose the best stories. That was just absolutely perfect. So our reading this morning is All Souls Day classic by the late, great Mary Oliver. It's her poem, When Death Comes. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn. When death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut. When death comes like the measles pox. When death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore, I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending as all music does towards silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world.
The ministries of our church are supported by the love, talents, and efforts of our many volunteers and staff, as well as the monetary support of our members and friends. If you found this church to be of value in your life, then I invite you to be generous, as the morning offering is freely given and gratefully received. We receive these monetary gifts along with the gifts of your time, work, and creativity, which also sustain our church. As together we give generously to support our congregation, let us also commit ourselves to a unity of spirit to make manifest a more just, peaceful, and loving world.
On the third anniversary of my dad's death, my sister and I went home to spend the weekend with our mom. We went on walks and made meals together. We talked and talked and talked some more. All the stories we would have cut short on the phone tumbling out of us in greater detail. And then, when we could not postpone it any longer, we made our way to my mom's bedroom closet. We steadied ourselves a moment and then squeezed inside. Standing there, elbow to elbow, conversation paused, our bodies still in unspoken reverence for Dad's everyday things hanging on hangers or perched on the shelves around us. Somehow or other, by our internal timeline of grief, we had determined that after 3 years, it had come time to go through Dad's shirts and shoes and ties to figure out what to give away and what to keep. I had made a point of avoiding that closet since Dad died. It was slowly sinking in that years would continue to go by without him. My sister and I would live in places that Dad would never visit, make friends Dad would never meet. New songs and books would be written that Dad never heard, never read. Impossibly, life was somehow continuing on. But it had been pleasant to think at times that at least his side of the closet might remain unchanged, just in case. Shirts always hanging on hangers just as he left them. His favorite ties still conveniently knotted and ready to go. The sweaters that had been folded and stacked by his own two hands. We put the shirts that we couldn't remember him wearing in a giveaway pile. And I took the blue Land's End button down with white stripes that I pictured him wearing throughout my early childhood, like a cartoon character who appears in every scene wearing the same outfit. When I was growing up, my dad made us what he called flapjacks every weekend. His own buckwheat and oat laden recipe, each flapjack weighing in at about 5 pounds. He was an airline pilot, and even when he was only traveling for a few days, he always sent my sister and I our own postcard. We have shoe boxes full of postcards. And when he was home, he woke up early on dark mornings and drove us to swim practice at 5 a.m. When we were teenagers and petrified of standing out at the grocery store, Dad loudly sang songs from My Fair Lady and Fiddler on the Roof in the freezer aisle. And when we grew up, he called at least once a day to check in and listened more than he talked, delighted by our triumphs, feeling our setbacks as if they were his own. He offered help with our taxes. He visited just to change the oil in our car or rotate the tires. He was woven into our lives so thoroughly. He carried more than half of any experience or task that might have been cumbersome or heavy otherwise. And when he died, it felt a lot like walking on land after a long float in the water. So aware of suddenly having to move through the world carrying the full weight of myself. When someone we love dies, we begin the long, winding journey of grieving. Others may be able to guess at the basic ins and outs of what we're feeling, but the grief we are left with is as unique as the person we loved. Our loss specific as the small details of who they were and how they loved us. As the ones left behind to mourn, we get lost for a time in the singularity of our grief, alone and lonely, in a place that no one else can venture because they do not know the landscape as we do. There is a Buddhist story about a woman whose husband dies tragically. She is so consumed by the loss of this love, their relationship that was unlike any other. And in her desperation, she goes searching for a way to bring him back. Someone tells her that if she wants to heal her grief, she should go see the Buddha. She presents herself before the Buddha and begs him to bring her husband back, describing all that made his death uniquely unjust and her grief unlike any other. The Buddha listens and then tells her, "Bring me a mustard seed from a home where no one has suffered the loss of a loved one, and then I will bring him back." The woman nearly trips over herself, alive with hope again, hurrying away to find the precious mustard seed that will bring back her beloved. The first house she comes to, a man greets her, and after he hears her story without question, he offers her a mustard seed from his own cabinet. But when the woman remembers to ask if he has known loss, he answers that he is, in fact, in mourning. His dear cousin had died recently. She thanks him and explains that sadly she cannot accept this mustard seed. She hurries to the next house and the next, but even when she travels far and wide, it's the same. Everywhere she goes, someone has lost a loved one. Everyone has known grief. And in the end, she returns to the Buddha empty-handed. Mary Oliver says, "I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular. Each life common, waking, eating, working, loving, at a distance, broad strokes, ordinary motions. Up close, each life is singular. The layers of experience, feeling, knowledge that a soul collects over time makes it unlike any other. And when a life ends, the grief that follows is as common and as singular too." You might remember in May of 2020, as we struggled to believe our new day-to-day life amidst the coronavirus, the New York Times printed 1,000 of the first 100,000 people who had died of COVID by that time in the United States. And so the front page was a sea of tiny letters in black and white in an attempt to honor the names, so many deaths, so much grief. And it would have been poignant just to use the entire front page to print these names, but they included a single sentence about their lives, too. One phrase, one detail of how each of these layered and complex people had spent their life. One phrase to capture a single grain of what their loved ones had lost. A means of honoring how this life lost amidst so many lives lost was unlike any other. Marion Kruger, great grandmother with an easy laugh. Richard Daniel Harris had a knack for games of chance. Ijeoma Afuke, Nigerian immigrant studying to become a nurse. Cynthia Whiting, determined to spoil her granddaughter. The story of the mustard seed feels cruel in a way, giving a bereaved woman false hope that she can bring her beloved back. And of course, there is the Buddhist teaching of impermanence, that mortality itself is a universal reality that we must accept in order to be free of fear and fully present in our lives. The lesson that it is our resisting, our denying the fact of impermanence that causes our suffering. But I have to wonder about that woman's experience after the Buddha sent her out on her quest. As she went door to door searching for that mustard seed, hearing the stories of loved ones who had been lost, I have to wonder if with each story she heard, her grief became just a little lighter. I wonder if the quest she was sent on was fashioned to remind her again and again, as singular, as distinctive, as desolate as her grief was, she was not alone, not isolated in her loss. In fact, the very experience of loss, of grief, was something she had in common with everyone else she met. She must have met someone who had lost a loved one just yesterday, and someone who had lost a loved one years and years ago, and every story in between. Each story of loss she collected was a single thread woven into a larger web of connection, binding her to the experience of every other life. And in that interweaving, that communion, she must have found a startling resilience. The gift of seeing with her own eyes that others before her had survived, had made meaning, had continued living through their grief. How it must have eased her way to see how the sharpest edges can grow smoother over time. Whatever grief you carry with you, may you hold the singularity of your loss close. The unique texture of your sorrow is itself the shining, bright thread woven into a larger web of connection, binding you to every other life. even if you need to do it 1,000,000 times. Follow the thread of your grief again and again back toward the steady, gentle knowing that you are not alone. Blessed be. Amen. Would you be with me in meditation and prayer? Closing your eyes if you are comfortable. And breathing in deeply through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Letting your shoulders rise with the inhale, chest broadening, and then as you release, exhale through your mouth, let your shoulders fall away from your ears and relax. Just feel yourself breathing in the company of others, breathing deeply. Kathleen McTeague writes that in the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in our living. It is right to name the power of lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. And I want to invite you, if you feel moved, to speak aloud the name of loved ones who have died, people who have given you strength in your living. And we may speak on top of each other as we speak these names, and that's okay. We'll just allow the names of our loved ones to mingle together, to join us in this room, to be held with love and gratitude. So if and when you feel moved, please speak their names aloud. Riley Randolph Stevens. With love and gratitude, we hold you all and remember you always. Amen. Now we will sing together again, rising in body or spirit. It's number 108 in the Gray Hymnal.
As our service draws to a close, we extinguish the flame of our chalice as we say these words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Let's end our service by waving farewell to our friends on Zoom and Zooming, waving to us roomies.
Again, the words of Kathleen McTeague, those who have died are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them choose a deeper path of living. Go in peace.